Hello everybody, welcome back to the Indescribable channel. I'm RK and Merry Christmas. As of this releasing, it is the week before Christmas, and the video that comes out next is after Christmas, so this is our Christmas special, I guess. Yeah, I have to be completely honest. I thought that I had all the videos ready for the rest of the year, but then I realized I was missing this one. So it is Thursday, the Thursday before this video comes out. So we're doing another reaction. Woo! Yeah, so FNAF, FuhNaff, posted another theory or reaction video, I guess it would be, talking about the FNAF 2 movie and how it applies to the timeline. If you've seen my videos talking about my theories and stuff like that, I'm very, very cynical and very cynical when it comes to a lot of FNAF theories. I just feel like right now we're at a point where it's just a content farm and nothing really comes out of the theories until the new game comes in, and then it's like, oh, hey, everything we were thinking was wrong. This is why, yada, yada, yada. I understand, and this is coming from someone who uses FNAF, who posts a lot of FNAF content, so I'm a bit hypocritical there. But yeah, let us find out how the FNAF 2 movie solves the FNAF timeline.
The FNAF 2 movie just answered a ton of questions surrounding the FNAF timeline. But what I'm curious about is if those answers can be used to solve the timeline of the games. The FNAF 1 movie made it pretty clear that the movies are in a separate timeline to the games. There's important characters and scenes from the games that are straight up just absent or even changed in the movies. For example, in the first movie, we see the scene where Afton gets springlocked, with all of the animatronics surrounding him, then dragging him away to the secret safe room. In the games, not only does the scene already take place in the safe room, the physical animatronics aren't even present. Afton disassembles all of the animatronics right before he gets springlocked, and because of this, only the spirits themselves are surrounding Afton in the games. Like I said, similar things happen in the movies and games, but in completely different ways. So in this video, I'm gonna figure out if there really is anything we can take from the movies to help solve the game's timeline. Make sure to subscribe and let's get started. One of the biggest reveals
so already a minute in. Okay, so the biggest thing I hear from everybody online is about if the FNAF movie, or if that movie universe is in the same canon as the games and the books. If that makes sense. How you know we're talking about like the Silver Eyes trilogy, like all that stuff is possible in the canon, but it doesn't, just because it doesn't happen in the games directly doesn't mean it's wrong or it's completely separate, if that makes sense. Think of it as like a multiverse sort of thing. And the director and all those and like people with the movie have said time and time again that the movies are very close to lore accurate. So basically, it is just another universe. Anything that happens in the movies can happen in the games and in the books, which is why, like he was saying, the Springlock scene we see in the movie is much more similar to the Silver Eyes than it is to the games. And so, consider it that way, where it's like, oh, well, this didn't happen, so it's not canon or it's not important, so it's useless to the games and stuff like that. It's like, no, it's still lore accurate. And the other thing I've been hearing about, if you haven't gotten the idea yet, spoiler alert for the FNAF 2 movie, the biggest thing is how everybody, all the negative reactions from the fan base have just been, oh, this isn't accurate to the game theory timeline, and so it's not actually accurate to the lore. The game theory timeline and the actual story / lore of the games are different. Just because it contradicts game theory doesn't mean it contradicts the game. The whole Michael Afton and Mike Schmidt thing. Like, it's so like if we can lay out that groundwork, we can figure out more about the lore. Because I feel like the biggest problem with FNAF theories nowadays is they just build so much off of other theories and use facts as like, see, that's how you know I'm right, rather than, oh, this is like, hey, we don't know, this is our idea. And I feel like the movies have been that very much like, hey, we're not gonna help you solve the lore. We're just gonna say, hey, this is lore accurate. Take what you want from it, deal with it, basically, which I really love about that. But yeah.
The movie is actually something we learned from the trailers.
You're thinking of the franchise location. This is the original.
The FNAF 2 location with the toy animatronics was the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The FNAF 2 pizzeria is apparently the first and only one of its kind. This pretty much goes against literally everything we thought we knew about the FNAF timeline. The common consensus was always that there was the original Freddy's, then the toy location, and then back to the original Freddy's. So
yes.
I guess the question is, in the games, can the FNAF 2 pizzeria really be the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? Well, the first
Okay. We'll keep listening, but I just want to say again, you know how I literally just said they're all canon, but they're not in the same continuity. They're in different universes. This is exactly what I mean. So it's like in the games, there's the 1985 location. We see that location in Fazbear Frights. We hear about that location everywhere. Then we have FNAF 2, then the FNAF 1 location. In the movies, it's FNAF 2, then FNAF 1, because they're not going to pack 10 years of lore of a whole timeline into those movies. You can't in the amount of movies they're planning on making or however they're making. It doesn't work like that. So I understand where he's going. I'm going to keep listening, but I just want to say that again. Start off by saying, I don't agree with you, FNAF. And if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. I'm looking at the screen. You're right here. I know you're watching this. Hey, I think you're really cool, and we should do a collab sometimes. But this, don't think I'm gonna go easy on you. I just realized I sound so stuck up right now. It's fine.
The first thing I thought of was the FNAF 2 phone calls, where Phone Guy talks about the withered animatronics coming from a previous location.
By now,
Yes.
I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous location, and we just use them for parts now.
The newspaper at the end of FNAF 2 also says, quote, the new animatronics will be scrapped due to possible malfunctions. However,
Yes.
the original characters are being kept in hopes of a possible reorganization of the company. This straight up says that the toys are the new animatronics while the withereds are the original characters from the previous location. All of this
Yeah.
heavily implies that there was an original Freddy's before the toy location. There's also the fact that the
Yes.
movie shows the toy location being open in 1982. And we know because of this coin from the games that Freddy's doesn't open until 1983. All of this felt like the nail in the coffin. There is no way that the FNAF 2 location is the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in the games.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I don't think there was any debate in that, but I appreciate you saying it. I feel like you're going to give us some more stuff to maybe think otherwise. Once again, it's just different universes and stuff like that. But the other thing I would say, 1983, we actually see in... I'm not going to say this is like canon or official, but like it's a little detail that we see in, I think, editor Ryan put up where it's from. I'm thinking of, there's this paper that specifically says that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, like the business license registration or whatever it is established in 1979. And this is in the movie universe, not the game universe and stuff like that. So 1979 is when Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is established. So it could be open before 1982, just because the scene takes place in 1982 doesn't mean it's only open in then. And the whole 1983, and once again, the whole 1983 thing of Fazbear Entertainment, Fazbear Entertainment opening, that's still up for debate, really, when you actually think about it, because with the newer games, we see, Fazbear Entertainment has been around longer. We could say Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in 1983, but that would still give us the question of FNAF 4 and that kind of stuff, which there's some continuity being like, did Fazbear Entertainment open in 1983? Did Freddy Fazbear's Pizza open in 1983? Or was that coin, like how coins have like the dates of when they were printed in 1983? I don't know. Let's keep watching.
Right? Well, after looking back over the first 7 FNAF games, a few things stuck out to me, especially in FNAF 4. In the minigames of FNAF 4, we get to see a week in the life of the crying child. And because of the commercial
FNAF
playing
4.
on the TV in the living room, we know that these minigames take place in 1983. During the crying child's walk back home, we pass by a little girl playing with toy versions of the toy animatronics. We also see a toy version of Mangle in the Afton house in 1983. Why would there be toy versions of the toy animatronics all the way back in 1983? Well, maybe it's because the toys existed before 1983. In the movie universe, we know that the toys existed in 1982, and because of this, one of the other big reveals is that all of the toy animatronics are actually Springlock suits. So is there any proof that the toys in the games are also Springlock suits? Well, the way that Scott has portrayed Springlock suits has actually been pretty consistent throughout the years. In the most recent FNAF game, we learned that Springlock suits feature 3 prongs on the front of the torso that can fold in and out. And this is actually identical to what we see in the first movie. In the FNAF 1 movie, we see those same 3 prongs on the torso of the endoskeleton that can fold in and out. These are 2 fairly recent examples of what Springlock suits look like. But even if you look back at the original design of Springtrap, you'll find something pretty similar. We actually never get to see Springtrap's endoskeleton in-game, but in one of Scott's FNAF anniversary posts on scottgames.com, he posted a behind-the-scenes look at the design of Springtrap, and specifically his endoskeleton. He even gives us a zoomed-in look at the torso of the endoskeleton, and right there, you can see those 3 prongs. You can also see rings around the arms and legs, presumably so human arms and legs can fit and operate inside the suit. For comparison, the Endo 01s from the FNAF 1 game do not feature the 3 prongs or the rings around.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I needed to double check my facts and stuff like that. Okay, I was thinking of something else, but no, I figured it out. Okay, so we actually know that. Am I able to screen share this? Okay, we are. Okay. We see in this, so I see what he means. Technically, no, the Springlocks have not always been consistent. They used to be this design that we see here, which would give our William Afton the, oh come on, William, I'll put a better image on here, our William Afton scars and stuff like that. So technically, so I know what you're talking, I know what he means, and I understand what he is excuse me, what he is going for. I think the biggest thing is just, once again, different continuities, different timelines. So the movies aren't going to be one for one with the games, but like stuff like Fazbear Frights, where they're specifically meant to, hey, we're here to clean some stuff up in the game universe, like Enter the Pit, the biggest one, 1985, Missing Children incident and stuff like that. I understand what he means. I'm gonna let him keep going, but like I would say don't.
Around the arms and legs, because the FNAF 1 animatronics are not Springlock suits.
Yes.
So what about the endoskeleton of the toy animatronics? Well, we know that they use Endo 02s, and thankfully Scott gives us a really good look at Endo 02 in-game. And wouldn't you know, the endos for the toy animatronics have those 3 prongs on the torso, and
this is about what I was gonna go to. Sorry, with Springtrap. They have the prongs, but they're not the retractable ones. Here, let me see if I can find... Let's see if I can find a better look of this. Here. So we see the prongs. He is right. There are prongs and stuff like that. But we can also, and they have like the rings and stuff like that. I know where he's going with that. But we also see there's an endoskeleton in there. It's not like there's room for like Springlocks to be wound up and stuff. There's like very specifically an arm going through it and stuff. And like I said, with the prongs, they don't They don't look like they retract at all. I also have a little Funko Pop to show the exact thing. Like, don't, obviously Funko Pops aren't the best research for FNAF, but like you can see their design and stuff like that. Like, this is the like one of the most recent Funko Pops made. They don't have that prong.
The rings around the arms and legs. Are the prongs exactly the same as the rest of the Springlock endoskeletons? No. But do I think it's close enough, considering Scott probably didn't have much of the story planned when he was making FNAF 2? I think it could go either way. If Scott made a post tomorrow saying that this is a Springlock endoskeleton, it would be somewhat believable. And if he made a post saying the opposite, I think it would also be believable. The combination of the 3 prongs and...
Okay. I will say this a billion times, and I will say this to my grave. Scott Cawthon is a great story writer. He's a bad storyteller, and his biggest problem is trying to appeal to all the fans. He clearly had a story set up in FNAF 2. Like, he had 1, 2, 3. 1 was like its own separate thing because he didn't have anything actually. He thought it wasn't going anywhere. But once he went to 2, he was like, oh, I need a story now. And which is why 3 came out so quickly. Those games came out quickly because he had a story, and 2 and 3 came out so quickly because he wrote a story and had one in mind. And so just saying, oh, well, like it's just the worst. It's my least favorite part about theories nowadays because they just go straight to, well, Scott isn't really good with his own story, but we know it more than he does. It's like, no, you don't. He knows the story. He is still in charge of the story, even to this day. Just because it's hard to tell that story and it often leads people astray does not mean he doesn't have a story in mind. Like, theorists and like the community is so quick to just discrediting him. It gets to the point like, okay, so you don't, if you want to write your own story about FNAF, then do it, but don't act like there isn't one just because Scott has a hard time conveying it easily. And this is the other, I guess it's a fallacy, but it's the other thing that I hear about theories. So like, they go like, well, if he says it was, I'd believe him. So that must mean, so it's true. It's like, no, it's like, it could just be the same thing. Like, oh, well, if I put a cat in a box and shoot it, it could be alive. That's Schrodinger's cat or box. The whole thing is, no, that's a stupid thing. That's the whole misconception is, no, it's a dead cat if you shoot it. Just because it's in a box and you can't see it doesn't mean it's not dead. That's the whole thing. Like, just because, oh, well, I could see it being true, that doesn't mean it is, if that makes sense.
And the rings around the arms and legs is what really gets me. This movie feels like Scott is trying to give us answers to the games, but there's so many little but big things holding me back from accepting those answers as canon. For example, the coin saying that Freddy's opened in 1983. Yes,
it's since game universe, movie universe, separate continuities, same canon. The dates are going to be different. FNAF 1 the first movie takes place in the 2000s, in the early 2000s. FNAF 1 most likely takes place in the 90s. Like, that's not confirmed, obviously, the games, but like, that's what we agree on, and that's kind of what it is. And like, you can go right there. That's another misconception. Just because we say it is, that we all agree on it, doesn't mean it's true. I could, if once again, going back to his say, like, it just because we agree on it doesn't mean it's true, and just because there's a coin from one game does not mean that, oh, that means this game, that means the movies have to be different continuities, share the same canon. That doesn't mean they're one for one.
I think I could come up with a way to explain this away. If you look at the design of Freddy used on the coin, you'll notice that it's the FNAF 1 Freddy, which is the design used for the franchise locations. Since 1983 could be referencing the start of the franchise locations after the original Freddy's with the toy animatronics shut down. There's also...
Wait a minute, didn't he say the whole thing with the Springlock? Didn't he use the... Wait, so he's... So at the very beginning of this, he was like, oh, well, they're clearly different and stuff like that because the Springlock scenes are different and stuff. And now he's trying to use that, he's trying to use that same logic for the coin and the restaurant's opening. Like, I like with this part, like, I can get on his side with this stuff like that. But like when you started out being with this bit of logic, and then you ignore it and use it to support your theory. So how does that make sorry, I want to clarify once again. I love these YouTubers. I love FNAF theories. I love watching them and stuff like that. But it gets to a point where I no hate against these guys. I love the amount of work they put into it and stuff like that. From a FNAF YouTuber from a small FNAF YouTuber to a big FNAF YouTuber, you guys are awesome. But it just comes to a point where I'm like, okay, where it gets to the point, like what I said with the content farm, where they're just like, they're morphing what logic they use to, like I said, they use the Springlock scene to say, hey, these are different continuities, and then use the tokens, the games, and to be like, okay, well, it's the same continuity, so how can we make this work? It's like, no, they're separate continuities. They're not, it's not, the FNAF 2 location wasn't open in 1982. We see that in the games. 1985 is when the MCI location closes, and then the FNAF 2 location opens a few years, after that. You can't just say, well, the movies say this. Yeah, but you also said the Springlock scenes are different. So they can't, it's not working, if that makes sense. Something's not meshing, and you're using the logic to discredit as the logic to support.
The fact that the gameplay for FNAF 2 takes place in 1987, not 1982. But just because the gameplay takes place in 1987 doesn't mean the pizzeria has to be open in 1987. The movies and books have established that security guards are hired to work at Freddy's long after the restaurants shut down. Like I said, there is a way to explain all of these problems away, even if it is a little bit convoluted. But the one thing I keep going back to...
Okay. We're pausing. We're 6 minutes in and we're 20 minutes into the video. Okay. Yes, night guards are hired after. And I would completely agree if this was like FNAF 1, like the FNAF 1 location was closed when we play the game. But in FNAF 2, we specifically hear phone guy talking to Jeremy, hey, you are going to the day shift. And then the next night, another security guard is there. That is where I would say, hey, that is the hugest point to be like, hey, these are open. This is open because Jeremy Fitzgerald goes to the day shift and Fritz Smith takes over. Like that is that is the hugest thing. I'd be like, oh, this is what's true. I could say like, oh, some of the other FNAF 2 phone calls are recorded and stuff like that. But like the call, I think it's night 4 or night 5 or one of those calls, like one of the end game calls and stuff like that. He specifically says, you're going to the day shift. Jeremy goes to the day shift and a new night guard comes in. It's open when we were there. And we have the whole thing called the Bite of 87, which
is this newspaper we see at the beginning of FNAF 2, where it says, come be a part of the new face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This heavily implies that there was a previous face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, along with a previous location. So as far as the FNAF 2 location being the original Freddy's in the games, I think it's possible, but it's highly unlikely. But one big reveal from the movie that I think
I'm so sorry, I love you. John FNAF, I love you so much. You're awesome with this, and I love the amount of work you put in. You just spent half your video talking about something, and you're like, no, this isn't right. Anyways, like, I understand you need that runtime and stuff like that, but this is the other thing with just the whole FNAF content farm thing I've been talking about. This is a 12-minute video. 7 minutes of that video was talking about something that was already established to not be the case. And then this might just be my preference. If this might just be me. I might just be a hater without realizing it and stuff like that with FNAF theories. But like, how, as a person that is writing FNAF show, like making a whole FNAF project, Day Shift to Freddy's, check it out right here, or well, it's the logo. You can check out the actual video thing we have. It's not the actual thing, but a little teaser we have right here. It doesn't help a FNAF theorist like me who wants to work on theories and piece stuff together, especially with games 1 through Custom Night, like he was saying, where we have like where the general the agreed upon timeline has flaws in it, and we just been so used to it that we just think it's true. And I'm trying to actually fix it and figure out what's going on, and you spend half of your video talking about just kind of like filibustering, I think is the word, just spending time talking about something that's not important. I'd rather have a 5-minute video talking about an important theory than a 12-minute video where half of it is just useless information. Because right now we just spent 30 minutes of this video, me talking about this, being like, hey, this is why no, I don't agree with this, I think this is why, yada, 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 yada. And then you just go, yeah, this isn't actually true. I'm like, so what are you talking about? So why did you...
Can work well in the games is that the...
Let's keep
likely.
going.
But one big reveal from the movie that I think can work well in the games is that the reason the puppet calms down when hearing the music box is because it was a gift from her father, Henry. I think that works pretty well in the games and is a satisfying answer to why the music box works on the puppet. Speaking of the puppet, the movie also revealed that the only animatronic that's haunted in the FNAF 2 pizzeria is the puppet. The movie makes...
There we go! Why didn't you... You could have started with that. I would have been so much on your... This could have been an even shorter video of me talking about this if you just started with that. That's useful information.
It's very clear that there's only one spirit haunting the pizzeria, and that's Charlie. Because of this, Charlie is actually the one controlling all of the toy and withered animatronics, which means all of the animatronics except the puppet are not haunted. This is something that could translate to the games, but there are a few problems. In FNAF 2, we see the spirit, or at least the suit, of Golden Freddy popping in and out of the office. We also know that there were another set of murders at the FNAF 2 location, commonly referred to as the DCI, the Dead Children Incident. But after FNAF 2, the DCI is literally never brought up in another game again. This makes me think that Scott didn't intend for these to be kids in this minigame. I think they're meant to be adults. We see in both the first and second movie instances of adults entering the pizzerias and getting killed by the animatronics. In the second movie, we see Michael Afton offering to give the ghost hunters a tour of the restaurant, only for the toy animatronics to kill them. And if you look at Michael's outfit, you can see he's wearing a purple polo shirt and a big gold security badge on his chest, just like the purple guy we see in the FNAF 2 minigame. Maybe this purple guy isn't meant to be William, it's meant to be Michael Afton, luring adults into the pizzeria to their deaths. But here's the problem. We see in the opening scene of the movie that Charlie is desperately trying to tell the adults that a kid was being kidnapped, but they all ignore her. This ends up being the reason Charlie gets killed. And now that she possesses the puppet, her goal is to kill all of the adults that she can, because they failed to help her that day. This might even be why Henry had to create Lefty in FNAF 6 to capture the puppet. He knows that she's out of control and wants revenge against the adults. What happens in the movie actually could line up pretty well with the games. In Charlie's death minigame, we do see her outside of the pizzeria screaming for help through the window. And because no one helped her, she gets killed by William. The adults at the restaurant failed her in both the movies and the games. And in the FNAF 2 phone calls, we hear that the animatronics at the pizzeria pizzeria are fine with kids, but act differently around adults.
But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive towards the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just...
At Foot Locker, we're celebrating the season.
Well, that's an ad.
Foot Locker, we got you.
That's two ads, even better.
stare.
We even get a line from Vanessa in the movie where she says that Charlie doesn't blame Afton for her murder, she blames the adults that failed to help her, which also lines up with her voice lines from Ultimate Custom Night.
I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore. I don't hate you, but you need to stay out of my way.
Okay. Charlie is only mad at the adults, and that's kind of the problem. In the minigame where we see the DCI, you can see the puppet running around the pizzeria with the words "save them" being spoken letter by letter. It seems like the puppet is trying to save the people who got killed, but if these really are supposed to be adults, Charlie wouldn't want to save them. This is the thing. It feels like these pieces are supposed to connect, but there's always one or two things contradicting them. But one other thing that could work in the games is what's in the box. In the movie, we see Vanessa pull a box out of the closet and take various objects.
Okay, we're segueing to the next part. I think I'm gonna go into theory mode for a second because I've been thinking about this for a little bit with whole FNAF 2 and stuff like that. I think this makes the save them minigame makes sense a bit more. So we're going to talk about the FNAF 2 minigames and stuff like that first. I think once again, disclaimer alert, this is a theory. I have no idea if this is true or not. This is my thought to help make this, make focus on games 1 through 3, figuring out what the specific narrative is in this story. What I think it is we start with Foxy Go 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 at the original Freddy's, and we see the MCI. We see that happen, and then the next one we have is the give cake to the children minigame, which is a give cake.
Many hours later.
Yes, okay, it is. It is the give cake minigame, where we see the puppet die at the FNAF 2 location. We're there because she haunts the toy animatronics, because at this point the MCI happened and they're stuffed in the suits, and we know time and time again that is how they haunt the animatronics. They're stuffed in the suits. So what I think happens is, as FNAF 2 progresses, Give Gifts Give Life happens and possesses the withered animatronics, the MCI ones. And then we have the Save Them minigame where the puppet is trying to stop Afton from committing trying to stop the adult from committing the DCI. And this is where Afton discovers the animatronics are possessed. I feel like here, because he runs at them, not scared, but excited, with that huge grin on his face. Oh, they're possessed. I can figure something out. Which then, in a narrative perspective, leads to FNAF 3, where he's taking them apart. And then he deals with the spirits in FNAF 3 and gets Springlock and stuff like that. And then we also know that the whole little Faz Talker thing in FNAF 2 is the puppet. And so, which is why we have the save them. Which is why we have save them. Help them. And so, and gives gifts and give life. The puppet says, help them. To the animatronics, trying to rescue the DCI. Is that what we're supposed to figure out? Or is that supposed to be specifically us helping the animatronics by giving gifts, giving life? I don't know. That is a little bit that I thought of and I wanted to put out there and stuff like that. I think I go into the big fallacy. If Scott confirmed it, I'd believe it. If he deconfirmed it, I would also believe it. The only evidence I have is this and a narrative idea trying to figure out why Purple Guy is taking apart the animatronics. And we know in the greater story, oh, he's taking them apart because he knows they're possessed and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where I come to that conclusion. Is it true? I don't know. But yeah, let's keep watching this video. Also, I swear to God, if I hear another Michael Afton plays Michael Afton in every game, I'm simply going to quit FNAF. He's not. Like, there's so many times where it just doesn't, it's at the point where it's like, this does not make sense for the timeline. It just doesn't. And I can go into this all the time, but I scream about this every FNAF lore video I talk, every time I talk about the lore. We're not Michael in every game. This is not Mike. The purple guy in FNAF 2 is not Michael. It's William. Michael does not exist until FNAF sister location. He doesn't. When Scott is working on the next story and stuff like that, FNAF 4 Silver Eye sister location, you could say FNAF 4, sorry, we can say FNAF 4 is Michael Afton or an Afton son. He is not relevant in games 1 through 3 because that is not the story games 1 through 3 are telling. They are talking about the spirits and the puppet and William Afton and how the spirits are trying to fight him and how eventually they get freed to some extent. Do they actually get freed, or does, like I said with the 2 Golden Freddy theory, does the crying child get free, Evan Golden Freddy stays and linkers on, and that's why we have FNAF 6 with the fun times and stuff like that? I don't know. But this is something we can think about, but I want to emphasize again, me personally, I do not think we play as Michael in every character. I do not think he's a hero. He's a hero. I think he is either a puppet used by Afton or a villain. Like, he is not what the fandom and what game theory makes him out to be, and I feel like the FNAF 2 movie screams that. And which is why a huge bit of controversy in the fandom is like, no, why is he a bad? He's not a... Guys, your lore-accurate movie is wrong. Game theory says he's a good guy. It's... Something is wrong, and when the movie that is like being watched by Scott Cawthon, the story is being developed and stuff like that, with the guy who's making the story gives you stuff to say, hey, this is what's happening, and the fandom is like, no, you're wrong. The fandom's wrong, not Scott. I will be a Scott defender. Scott, I love your story. Whatever it is, I love it. We can do a bit better on telling it, and we don't have to submit to the fandom. You got this. Like, you're doing good. Like, you've done good stuff. Let's keep
running
going.
around the pizzeria with the words "save them" being spoken letter by letter. It seems like the puppet is trying to connect, but there's always 1 or 2 things contradicting them. But one other thing that could work in the game...
Sorry, one more time. And real quick, this is real quick. The biggest thing that I always say for theory making, if there's a contradiction that doesn't make sense, then it's wrong. Or we need to keep looking. And if he is being like, there's something that doesn't contradict, then it's wrong. Let's keep seeing what he has to say.
In the movie, we see Vanessa pull a box out of the closet and take various objects out, including Garrett's toy plane. Because Garrett's plane was in the box, I think it's safe to assume that what's in the box is Afton's trophies from his murders. This is a common thing that serial killers do, so that would make sense. This is one of those things that has no evidence to back it up in the games, but it kind of doesn't need it. The box isn't super important to the story currently, so whether this is what's in the box in the games or not doesn't really affect anything. So until Scott says otherwise, this is probably what's in the box. Next, we gotta talk about Circus.
We'll go there in a second. The box itself is not relevant anymore. The fact that Afton keeps toys of his victims does. The biggest thing for like David Murray as the crying child is the toys in the room. Number 1, the toys in the crying child's room in the daytime games does not look like the FNAF 4 house that we play in. David's room does not look like the FNAF 4 one. Like they're similar, but you have to be like, but in a world where literally the FNAF 1 pizzeria is a or the design of the FNAF 1 pizzeria and the FNAF 3 map just exists in Secret of the Mimic, you can't just be like, oh, well, it looks like it, so it must be it. But what is there is David's toy. Pull up the toy. That is in the FNAF 4 house. Which goes to me, in the movie context now, oh, David Murray is a victim of William Afton. That is where I come to that is where I can be like, yes. That is where that is where my theory goes to. Is it true? I don't know. This is my theory. There's a little bit of evidence. The rest, I don't know. Let's talk about Circus Baby.
After I saw the movie for the first time, I told you that there was one scene that made me jump out of my chair, and this was it. But one thing that didn't hit me until after I left the theater is that Vanessa in this dream sequence looks to be the same age she was when Charlie died, meaning that we have a fully functioning and built Circus Baby as early as 1982. And not only that, her eyes are already green. In the games, this would mean that Elizabeth already possesses Baby. But it doesn't seem like Elizabeth exists in the movie universe, at least that we know of. I can only hope that we learn more about when Baby was built in the third movie, because figuring out when Circus Baby's Pizza World opened would help a lot with creating a timeline. But if this part of the movie really can be put into the games, then Elizabeth being the first death in the franchise is not out of the question. With this, I think we're gonna have to wait until we get more info in the third movie. Once again, I am not saying the movie universe is the same as the games. I think what I've learned from researching for this video is that the movie franchise really does take parts of every corner of this franchise and mixes them all together. There are things we can take from this movie and use in the games that are pretty satisfying in my opinion, but a lot of things just don't work, and that's okay. Unless there's something big that I'm missing, and in that case, Scott, if you're watching, feel free to let me know in the comments if you want. Subscribe if you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.
Yes, I 100% agree. There were, yes, no, absolutely. I would say me personally, when we did FNAF the series, season 1 and season 2, it just felt like every year something would happen, like lore would come up to confirm our timeline in that series. Like with, what was the first one? I'm trying to remember. I think it would have been Help Wanted 2, the missing children's incident, and that order, because we had the puppet was last because she was in the FNAF 2 location, not the 1985, not Fredbear's, not like a FNAF 2, the missing children's incident. In that order, it was like, yeah, I think we were off by one. It was Susie, Fritz, Gabriel, and Jeremy, and then Cassidy and the puppet, where in our series we had Susie, Cassidy, Fritz, Jeremy, Gabriel, Charlie. And then 2024 was, oh man, now I have to actually remember stuff. Last year it would have been, oh yeah, also with 2023 it would have been the FNAF movie where Mike Schmidt is Mike Schmidt and not an Afton. And we have Michael Afton now. If they wanted to confirm that they were the same person, they would have in those movies. There would have been no reason if the whole Afton saga narrative was the actual story of FNAF, they would have had a perfect story to do. Scott Cawthon listed all these stories that we had and stuff. He went with the Mike script, not Michael, Mike. And now, yeah. And then this year with Michael Afton, obviously, once again, not being a good guy, but we also have 1982 with Circus Baby. In our series we had, I believe it was 1981 or 1982, where Circus Babies opens. And then years later, after FNAF 1, where it finally closes down, Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental sparks back up, and that's where Michael goes in and stuff like that. I feel like I'm missing something, but yeah. Once again, love you, John FNAF. Keep doing what you're doing. The research is awesome. Any criticism I give is not meant to be rude or hateful. It is just it is me rambling and giving my opinion on how I feel, how FNAF how me personally, I feel like FNAF theories should be given out. They should not be, oh, this is what we have, I don't know. It should be, no, this is what we can come to a conclusion with, instead of just spending half your video talking about stuff you're saying, hey, this isn't true, but we're going to talk about it for half, then I'm actually going to give you my insight. But yeah, if I'm being hateful, let me know in the comments, because once again, I'm not trying to be hateful, but like, I understand how I can come across as that. John FNAF, if you want to do a FNAF theory together, I have one about didophobia. We can talk about that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what else you want me to react to, what other FNAF stuff you want to see. Next week will be Mario Kart. We're actually finishing that. It's been 2 months since we actually did Mario Kart because we were scheduling stuff happened. But yeah, and I will see you guys Later. Bye.